fighting the last war, the one just gone, the one before. We were always fighting the last war, a war worth fighting for. Always fighting the last war, and I remember what we're fighting.
I hope Boss is on around. I wonder what we're up to.
Damn Kitty, you said it yourself. We need help, and shoe workers' unions are our best bet. I don't get enough money to feed and dress my young'un, and you're in a worse pickle than me, losing your husband on front and then have to bring up 3 kids on your own.
I know, when Pete were working at mines, we just about had enough money to get by, but since he enlisted, everything's changed for the worse, and I was forced to get work at Trenchard's shoe factory, and now I'm living hand to mouth.
All women of Eyam and Stoney are in the same sinking boat as us. We've got to do something about it. Hey, I've heard the shoe workers in Chesterfield get paid a lot more than us. It's because we're in the union and we need to be in one too.
And that's why we've written these letters, and that's why you're going to post them.
That's the spirit, and who cares if the bosses see us? We've neck to lose.
Yes. Godspeed, brave letter.
John, I've been expecting you. Please take a seat. Did you have a comfortable journey down from Northampton?
No, trains and buses were jam-packed with soldiers and sailors, but we're running on time.
Yes, the trams and trains are full of our lads in the forces these days, and the war is dragging on with no end in sight despite what the papers say. You know, we've lost over 2,000 of our union brothers already. It's heartbreaking to see the ages of some of them. Just 17 or 18.
I know we've lost many of our members, and there'll be bloody hell to pay when the war finally does end if the soldiers and sailors aren't treated like heroes.
For sure, it'll be the same old story. The ruling class will call them heroes until the war is over, then promptly forget about them. Cannon fodder during the war, factory fodder afterwards.
Too bloody true. But war aside, Fred, why have you asked me to come?
Yes, well, I've got these letters. They're from workers in Eyam and Stoney Middleton, shoe workers. And they're mainly women. They're clearly in a desperate plight. Their wages are pitiful, way below union rates. And women only get half of what the men get. There's a letter here from a Mary Pilling. She's a bender at one of the Eyam factories. I'll read the letter for you, just give you a taste of what's going on there. Dear sirs, the employers treat us horribly. They make us work over 60 hours a week with no bonuses and threaten us with the sack if we don't bring our 13 or 14-year-old daughters to work for them. They prefer children to work for them as they pay them very little and see them as easy to boss around. There, that gives you a flavour of what's going on up there. They're not unionised, but they want to be, and they want to join our union, the National Union of Boot and Shoe Operatives, and they want us to send somebody up there to sign them up. I think you're the best man for the job, John. Are you up for it?
Definitely. These people are clearly being exploited and I'm keen to help. But to be honest with you, Fred, I haven't a clue where the hell Eyam and Stoney Middleton are.
I thought that might be a problem, so I've actually brought a map with me. So I'll show you where it is on the map here. Just stand up there. You see Sheffield there?
Right.
And to the southwest of it, 13 miles, the villages of Eyam and Stoney Middleton are right next to each other. Now, Eyam's very famous because in the 17th century there was a plague that went through the village, and the villagers heroically decided to seal themselves off to stop it spreading. And 2/3 of them were consequently wiped out. Do you know about the story?
Can't say that I have heard of it, but it was clearly a noble act. Come on, tell us how you know about it.
Well, I was working as a clicker in Chesterfield for 5 years, and on a fine summer's day I decided to have a day out there, and it's quite distressing. You can see the graves of the plague victims all over scattered over the village. It's quite distressing, as I say. You'll see them when you go up there, you know. Anyway, back to the present day plague of low wages and long hours. In and around the two villages there are numerous shoe factories with a combined workforce of about 180. And because it's a backwater, the employers have taken advantage of this and they pay very low wages, way below union rates. They're even lower than the non-unionised factories in the surrounding area. It's a scandalous situation and they need our help.
Just a thought, Fred. But don't these factories supply boots for the army?
Yes, they do. Why do you ask?
Well, surely they've got to abide by the 1915 War Office Agreement with Lloyd George. That if you supply the army, you've got to pay union rates.
I'm afraid to say we're dealing with rogue employers. None of them are members of the National Federation of Employers, so consequently they don't feel they have to abide by national agreements.
I see. So, you want me to go up to Eyam and Stoney Middleton and sign up the shoe workers for the union? Well, I don't think I'll have any problem doing that. Now, when do you want me to go?
Well, as soon as you're ready. Would this Thursday be all right? I mean, the union would pay your travel and your lodging expenses, but there's a letter here from a clicker in one of the Eyam factories called Kitty Smith. She's a war widow, and she tells us how horrible they've been treated, but she says she would put up our representative if we sent one up there. I think it's a good idea to take her up on the offer because it'll give you a good picture of what's going on up there.
Aye, well, perhaps she can give me the lie of the land, and it looks as though her place could be a good spot to meet the other workers. Yeah, Thursday'd be all right for me. After all, the sooner I get up there, the better. Can I on to this?
Certainly can. Very good. Now, when you go up there, tell them about the benefits of joining the union. Also tell them that they might have to fight to get better pay and conditions. From my experience, employers don't take kindly to workers joining unions, especially if they're paying below union rates, as this shower in Eyam and Stoney Middleton are.
Can I have your assurance that the union will back them to the hill, particularly if there's argy-bargy and the employers dig their heels in?
NUP's always a fighting union, it always has been, and always will be. And if the employers up there are stubborn and play dirty, I give you my solemn promise, you'll get our full support.
Well, we might be lucky, but this could be another Rawn's, Fred. You remember how it turned out there? The lads there stayed out for 34 weeks, but were still starved back to work.
I remember Rawn's very well, but just because you've lost one battle doesn't mean you should be scared of fighting another one. Besides, the situation is different now. Our membership is far larger, and also the army is crying out for boots. We'll see how patriotic those employers are if they force their workers to take strike action.
Oh, well, that's something we'll find out. But from what I know of this sort of employer, their patriotism starts and finishes in their wallet.
So it does, but we'll see. Anyway, good luck, and if you have any problems, make sure you telegram me straight away.
I think we are going to have some problems, so keep an eye out for the telegrams.
Don't worry, I will. Have a safe journey to Eyam.
Cheerio, Fred.
What's his name, this union chap that's coming here to help us, and what's he like? I've heard rumours he's a deedar.
Hey, is he here yet?
Yeah, you're right. Well, his name's John Buckle, and he's from Leeds, not Sheffield. Mind you, he's spent the last 5 years in Northampton. He seems a right nice bloke, and my kids have taken to him, especially our Millie. And I've already told him a little bit about what's going on round here, and he's coming down to talk to us later because he seems genuinely concerned.
Does he know what terrible conditions we work in, Kitty? That the management treat us like dirt? Bakers work over 60 hours a week?
Of course I am. And he's told me that our wages are close to bone and we're being treated like dogs. He said that those workers in Northampton get paid way more than we do. They even get paid for the morning breaks.
Paid for breaks? Are you sure about
Damn
that?
right, I'm sure, Mary. And from what else he's told me, Trenchard is taking Michael out of us.
Well, he's a nobody, that's for sure.
Think of worse names for him than that.
Well, that won't be difficult, would it?
Now, all the bosses around here, they're all the same. Treating us like we're slaves, like we're chattel. They won't give a beggar the dirt from under their fingernails. The colliers around Chesterfield, they've been in unions for ages. They get good wages. That's why we need to stick together, sign up for this bootmakers union.
And that's why we're here tonight. If we can get every bootmaker from Eyam and Stoney Middleton to sign up, every man, woman and child, we can force bosses to give us better working conditions and pay us more.
We're only asking for a decent wage, so we're not scratching around trying to make ends meet. Kitten.
You're darn right. We can't give the young uns enough victuals to eat. We can't dress them like for church on Sunday. It's no wonder Eames called Treacle Town by outsiders. They say we can't afford anything better than bread and treacle to live on.
Well, everyone I speak to in the inn factories, both clickers and vendors, is up for joining the union.
Yeah.
The Stoney lot are a bit timid, and they fear they might have the cards marked by the employees. Hopefully, if this Mr. Buckle gives us some pamphlets, we can show upside to joining the union. I'm told boot and shoe workers pay 12 shillings and sixpence a week. Sick pay.
Dead right, he's told me that already. But not only that, you get all sorts of other benefits. They even pay for your coffee when you die.
Well, that's reassuring to know, isn't it? Judging by starvation wages paid around here, we'll be in need of it soon. I mean, take a look around the village. No one's got any fat on them. Cattle in fields look healthier than us.
Good evening, Mr. Buckle.
Oh, evening, Kitty. Everyone.
Yep. As you can see, there's more than me that's interested to hear about the union.
Oh, that's good to hear. Oh, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Now, as you know, I've been sent up here from London to tell you the benefits of joining the National Union of Boot and Shoe Operatives. Right. First things first, have you canvassed the other shoe workers?
Canvass the other workers, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you spoken to the other hands to see if they're willing to sign up?
Oh, yeah, most of them. They think like us.
E-women are all for it.
All of us.
Yeah. E-men and women, keen as mustard to join up. But stony lads and lasses, they're not so sure.
Oh, well, we'll get round to them later. I'm sure they'll step in line once they see the benefits of union membership. After all, it's daft that clickers here get less than half the pay of those that work in Northampton.
Well, we've heard all sorts you get when you sign up, so can you tell us about it?
Oh, certainly. Look, I'll start at the beginning. Now, the union. Now, the union is like a big family. It's there to help other family members when they suffer hardship. Now, how it works for us is, we have over 80,000 members nationwide, each of whom pays a subscription of 1 shilling a week. Now, that's all put into a pot, and from it we can pay strike pay and sick pay when it's needed, usually at between 12 shillings and sixpence and a pound.
I told them earlier you paid that when you're in pub.
Ah, but we do more than that. We also fork out the doctor's fees, and for funeral expenses. And for the last 4 years, we've been paying hardship monies to members' families whose lads have gone off and joined the army and are fighting for the country.
But a bob a week, that's a lot to have docked out your wages.
Aye, it is, but if we get paid more, we're not going to notice, are we?
Aye, well, from what you tell me, you're paid well below union rates. And that's what we'll ask your bosses for when we see them. Union rates, nothing more, nothing less.
But what are union rates?
Oh, well, it's what we expect you to be paid for your work. It should be enough for you to feed and clothe your families, pay your rent, and put a little bit aside for a rainy day. A fair day's pay for a fair day's work. That's our battle cry.
But the men get paid £2 a week, and we only get half of that. Sometimes even that's docked when we dare to be late. Last week I only got 19 shillings and sixpence.
Well, union rates are £2 and 18 shillings.
So, if us lasses got union rates, that means we'd get £1 and 9 shillings a week. That'd be a big improvement.
Ah, that's right. And with an extra 9 bob a week, I might be able to afford to buy some new curtains. The ones hanging up at the moment, they're rags. It'd be worth paying a bob. Sorry, Bob, for a rise of 9. Yeah. Sign me up now.
All right.
Well, you'd be daft not to. What about you men?
18 shillings a week extra. I'd be able to go to all the Blade Zone matches, yeah? Count me in.
It'd be madness not to join, but our bosses don't like unions, and we could get sacked for joining your union.
Oh, indeed you could. But as I said, the union is a big family, and we'll stand beside any of our brothers and sisters who get picked on.
You won't let us down, will you?
Our National General Secretary has told me that the union will back you to the hilt if there's trouble.
Eyam workers aren't afraid of trouble, Mr. Buckle. We're sick and tired of being looked on as something cats dragged in by bosses. All we're asking for is decent paying conditions. Like, give me a pen now and I'll sign up. I'm sure the rest of us will.
I will.
Count me in.
Well, whatever the cost down for it, I've lived on my knees for far too long.
Oh, that's the spirit. Now, we'll need 2 shop stewards, one for the men and one for the women. Are any of you up for the task?
Well, I'm up for it.
And for the women?
I'm definitely up for it.
That's good. Right. Now, but I do have to warn you, Kitty, and what's your name, brother?
Bill Slater.
Nice to meet you, Bill. Well, I have to warn you, Bill, Kitty, that as shop stewards, you'll be in the boss's firing line. It'll be your job to put the workers' demands to them, and they might not like what they hear. Indeed, they could take against you personally.
You mean sackers?
Possibly. Bosses can be right sods, particularly where they've not dealt with unions before, and they could blacklist you. So, knowing that you could be fired and face other repercussions, are you still up for it?
Think on it, Kitty. You've got 3 young kids. You can't afford to get sacked. Let's all like got kids do it.
Mary, sometimes in life you have to do what's right, even if there's a cost. And this is one of them times I'm doing it, no matter what the consequences.
Oh, good. And you will?
Well, if a lass is willing to risk it, especially one with kids, I wouldn't be much of a man if I didn't, would I?
Oh, good on you both. And as I said, the union will stand behind you if there's any trouble comes about.
But what do you have to do? We've not done anything like this before.
Oh, right. Well, first things first, you've got to organise a meeting of all the workers who are willing to sign up. Then you'll need to arrange, sort out what your grievances and your demands are. Once you've done that, arrange a meeting with the bosses.
There'll be a bucket full of grievances, I can tell you that.
Well, will you help us?
Certainly. That's what I'm here for. Now look, I'll come along to the first meeting. I'll help you set out how you put your demands to the bosses. Now look, when you join the union, remember this, and you can tell everybody else, when you join the union, you become a branch of a very big tree. And woe betide any boss that tries to put that tree down.
Right then, lads and lasses, the sooner the better. So how about this Friday?
That's fine by me.
And me, like you said, Kitty, sooner better.
And if we get ourselves organised, we can take our grievances to Trenchard on Monday morning. What do you say, Bill?
Too right, we can.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and the union's so glad to have you joining our family.
All right, let's get us some organised then. Do you know, I can't wait to see Trenchard's face when we put our demands to him. He's a bloody slave driver.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Mr. Trenchard, but 2 of the hands have insisted on seeing you. I told them you're not to be disturbed, but, well, they get a bit uppity and demanded that I show them to you.
Demanded and insisted? Demanded and insisted? Who the hell do they think they are?
Bill
What's
Slater,
their names?
Bill Slater and Kitty Smith, sir. They say, well, they say they want to discuss grievances with you.
Who the now? Slater and Smith. Well, let's have them
Sir. This way, you two. Just there.
Mr. Campbell here says you demanded to see me. So what is it that you have got to say to me?
Well, Mr. Trenchard, we've come as representatives of the men and women who work here to state grievances we have with you.
What?
Grievances? About his paying conditions? We think we get paid far too low, we think the hours we work are far too long, and the conditions we work in are terrible.
Do you know?
Yes, we do. Our low wages mean we can't afford to pay and feed our kids properly. Also, there's no canteen facility in the factory, which means we have to walk home to eat a snack, which gives about 10 minutes to wolf it down. And another grievance is the state of the lavatories in this factory.
Oh, lavatories. Not pretty enough for you.
They're a damn disgrace, as you very well know.
Try what Kitty says about our snap. Our breakfast and lunch breaks are unpaid, and as there's no place to eat and drink in the factory, we have to walk home and gulp our food down as quick as we can. In winter it's terrible. We have to tramp through the snow and ice just to get something to eat. And if we're 1 minute late getting back, we get our wages docked.
Oh, it's wages now, is it? So tell me, how much do you think you should be being paid?
Union rates, Mr. Trenchard. Nothing more, nothing less.
Union rates? You mean like they get down in Northampton? Union rates? You mean twice as much as you're being paid now? Do you jest? I can't afford union rates. This is Eyam. It's a bloody backwater. You're lucky to have a job at all.
Well, they pay union rates in Chesterfield, so why can't you? You supply boots to the army at the same prices as Chesterfield, so why can't you pay us the same wages?
You listen here, Missy. Don't you dictate to me what I should be paying you. You're like one of those bloody Bolsheviks I've been reading about in the paper. Who do you think you are?
We think we're human beings, Mr. Trenchard, and we should be treated like human beings, not dogs. All we're asking for is to be paid the same wages as other people around the country, so we can feed his kids proper and not live hand to mouth. We're just about at the end of his tether, and we can't survive for much longer on what you pay us.
All we're asking for is a fair day's pay for a fair day's work.
I've got bills to pay. Got taxes to pay. Costs a lot more money to get raw materials out here to the back of beyond than it does to Chesterfield or Northampton. I'm trying to run a bloody business here, not some ruddy charity. Union rates is out of the question, and that is that. Now be off. Mr. Campbell, see these two out and straight back to work.
You heard what he said. Come on.
Come on.
Well, for your information, Mr. Trenchard, we've had a meeting with an organiser from the National Union of Boot and Shoe Operatives, and we've been instructed to say that if you don't agree to our demands, that the workers in this factory is going to take a vote on strike action.
You insolent bitch!
Hey now, wait a minute. You can't talk to Kitty like that.
I'll talk to her and I'll talk to you any way I like. So you and your workmates are all getting together to join a union, are you? Well, I'll tell you something for nothing. Billy boy, unions are the curse of this country, and I'll have no truck with them. Mr. Campbell, I've changed my mind. You won't be seeing these two back to work. You're going to show them the door. Because you're sacked!
You can't do that. I've got 3 kids to bring up. You can't be so unchristian as to do such a thing.
I'll do as I bloody well like. The pair of you got the nerve to bring in those outside agitators, troublemakers from the Bootmakers Union, following their instructions, threatening me with strike action. You're bloody sacked, and you'll never work in this village again.
You're but a bully, Trenchard, and a miserly one at that. You've been short-changing us for years. We're here to tell you, enough's enough!
Enough is enough, and I'll be damned if I'm going to listen to any more of this guff from you two. Mr. Campbell, see these two out of my office right now, out onto the street!
Oh, you've not heard the last of this, Trenchard, I assure you. Come on, lass, let's go.
All right, like I've not got enough on my plate.
Open the door, sir, as you said.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, I want you to keep your ear to the ground, your eyes wide open, and I want you to let me know if there's any more of our workers inclined to join a union, and I'll sack them immediately and get them blacklisted. This is dangerous business. It needs to be stamped out and stamped out quickly, or it's going to spread like a plague. I'm on my way now to have a word with all the other bosses in Eyam and Stoney. Make sure they know what's brewing. Make sure they take a tough stance on anyone joining a union. And I'm going to warn them about that Slater and Smith. And if they're renting the property from any of them, I'm going to get them evicted. Those two will rue the day they came into my office with the union threats and those greedy demands.
Up those rafters, you three, else there'll be no jam in your bread in the morning. And no messing about like idle foals this morning. I don't know, John. Since you've been here, my kids haven't wanted to go to bed at the normal time. Having a man back in the house has got them all excited again. They were really sullen, when their dad went off to war. But your arrival has definitely put a spring in the step. Not least because of those sweets I know you keep buying them. And can I get you some bread and dripping for supper?
Oh, that'd go down a treat. Oh, I'm really glad that my being here has cheered your kids up. I think they're a really grand bunch. Particularly your Billy. She's as bright as a button. She really ought to be going to college.
Yeah, she is that, but I can't see how I can afford to keep her on at school. I mean, just with my wages, and especially with the pittance that Trenchard paid. But perhaps if we get our jobs back and I get paid more, then they might just be away.
Well, don't worry, Kitty. The union will not accept any deal that doesn't see you, Bill and the others getting your jobs back. We're determined that all the shoe workers in Eyam and Stoney will get union rate wages and their war bonuses.
Oh, well, I trust you, John. I know you won't let us down. And to tell you the truth, even though I was furious with Trenchard for sacking me, I'm glad to have a bit of time to spend with my kids. I mean, working 60 hours a week, left little time to spend with them other than feeding them and putting them to bed. And you know, I felt terrible since I had to tell them about the dad's death. I felt guilty that I've had to work every hour God sends just to earn a living and not have time to read to them, tell them stories, play with them and take them for walks.
I can't imagine how terrible it must have been for you to have to tell them that Dad had been killed.
Yeah, it was terrible, John. Do you know, from the moment I got a knock at the door and I was handed that telegram, I thought of nothing else and I was going to have to tell them kids. I remember that day really clearly. It was a hot July day and the kids were all out playing in the woods. Innocent and carefree. But as soon as I closed the door, I collapsed in a flood of tears. And you know, I just wanted to stay there. I wanted to move. But I knew I had to be strong. And I found the strength, God knows where from, to pull myself together.
You're a brave woman, Kitty.
Hey, John, you have to be brave when you've got kids. You don't have a choice in matters.
That's true.
And I think that me and other workers, we're going to have to be brave to stand up to the likes of Trenchard and his pals.
Well, I'm very sure that you will be.
Anyway, John, I don't know much about you. I mean, how did you get involved in union matters, and do you have family?
No, it's a long story, Kitty.
Well, I'm interested in knowing. I mean, you must travel the length and breadth of the country signing people up to unions, so you can't have much time to spend at home.
I suppose that's true. I am no stranger to railway stations and bus stops. Yeah, I do spend precious little time at home. But there again, I'm a bachelor, so I don't have to worry about family.
I've never been further than Lincoln. My dad took me there once to show me Cathedral when I was a kid. I remember seeing Lincoln in, and I couldn't wait to get back to tell all my school friends about it.
Oh, you've lived in Eyam all your life, haven't you, Kitty? Have you never thought of going somewhere else?
Many times indeed. In fact, my sister Maggie, she got a place in service down in Brighton and asked me to join her. She's still down there now, actually. She's got a good job in a hotel.
Well, why didn't you go?
I asked myself that many times. But to be honest, I think my mother would have been heartbroken if both the daughters left the village. And not long after that, I met Peter at a dance during Wakes Week. He was right tall, good looking. Definitely swept me off my feet. And within 4 months we were married. And then a year later on came on Lily.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, you've still not told me how you got involved with union.
Oh, well, if you must know, I was brought up in Leeds and followed my father into the shoe trade. Well, after a while, I realised that shoe workers weren't treated very well, and I really wanted to do something to help. So, as I was good at reading and writing, I volunteered to help out with the local branch of Nupso. Yeah. Well, later on, we formed a branch there at the factory. Well, my good work must have been noticed because 2 years after, I was made Leeds branch secretary, and 5 years after that, national membership secretary. And that's why you see me now here in Eyam getting you lot to sign up.
And he's all the better for it. Now, John, can I get any more bread and dripping before I go up to bed?
Oh, no, I've got plenty here, thanks. That's fine.
Right then.
Good night, Kitty.
Good night. I'll see you in the morning, John.
Sleep well.
Yeah. Good night. Morning.
Morning, Kitty.
Hey, it's a bit bloody black over Bill's mother's, I tell thee.
Do you want a cup? I've just brewed.
Ah, thank you. How are you both?
Oh, fine, thanks, Bill. I was sorry to hear how it went with Trenchards the other day.
Right, sod Trenchard. You ought to have heard the way he spoke to Kitty. No man should speak to a woman like that. He treated us with utter contempt. He had no intention whatsoever of listening to any of our demands.
Yeah, he's a right cold fish, he really is. I couldn't care less that I've got 3 kids. He's what my Irish grandfather would have called a hangman.
Well, from what you tell me, he is without doubt a nasty piece of work. Oh, thank you. But we must be cautious about what we do next.
I don't know about being cautious, John. 13 more have been sacked from shoe factories for being with union. And all the other workforces, they're chomping at the bit to come out on strike in support of them and us.
Look, I know the brothers and sisters are keen to withdraw their labour, and I quite understand why they want to do so. But we mustn't take strike action lightly. After all, the country is still in a life and death struggle with Germany. And as the factories are making boots for the army, the bootmakers' union are bound by certain conventions.
Conventions?
Well, we came to an agreement with the Ministry of Labour that we'd not embark on any strike action during the war without first going to arbitration. Look, I know it's difficult for you to understand, but we must abide by that agreement.
But what is arbitration?
All right. Now, that's where workers and employers state their positions to an outside neutral person. Now, he then decides on the merits of their case and comes to a conclusion about what should occur.
But is it fair? I mean, what if this arbitration bloke sides with bosses?
Yeah, Kitty's right. Why should we put our trust in someone we don't even know?
Look, the union will not agree to any arbitrator who's not independent or who has any links with the employers. Look, you have fair and legitimate grievances, and any fair-minded person will come down on your side. Look, arbitration is the right road to go down.
If you say so, John, but to be honest, the lads and lasses want this sorted quickly, and they're not going to be happy to be told to stay at work when me, Bill and the others are out of harness.
Look, the union will support strike action if it becomes necessary, but it's much better not to have to resort to it.
But John, won't taking strike action bring kettle to boil and get things put right sooner?
Well, you might think that, Bill. But in my bitter experience, that's not always the case.
And what experience is that?
Well, 10 years ago, in Rome's in Northamptonshire, shoe workers came out on strike for better pay and shorter hours. With the union support, they thought the strike would be over within days. But it didn't happen like that. The bosses dug their heels in and the strike dragged on for 7 months. The workers were eventually starved back to work. Now look, we got a lot of public support and union membership increased. But it didn't end well for the strikers.
And do you think the same's going to happen here?
Taking strike action is always a risky business, Kitty. So it is much better not to have to resort to it.
All right, John. We'll abide by what you're saying and go to arbitration.
Yeah, we'll do as you advise, John.
Believe me, it's the right course to follow. After all, we do have to take public opinion into account. If we can show that we are fair and reasonable people who've not taken strike action lightly, then we'll get support from all over the country. However, in this case, the employers might not let it go to arbitration.
Really?
What do you mean?
Well, the Eyam and Stoney employers are not part of the National Employers Federation.
So what does that matter?
Well, the Employers Federation signed up to the same agreement as us, that during the war they'd also go to arbitration in an industrial dispute and abide by the decision. However, as the Eyam and Stoney employers are not part of the Employers Federation, it means they're not legally bound to go to arbitration. It also means the miserly buggers don't have to pay the war bonuses of 15 shillings a week to which every other war worker is entitled.
They're a sly lot, aren't they, these employers around here?
They certainly are, and there really is no counting on what they'll do. But we must show that we're willing to go to arbitration, even if they're not.
All right, John. We'll put our case to arbitration. And if the bosses don't agree to it, we'll all come out on strike.
Look, if the employers refuse to go to arbitration, the union has no choice but to bring you out on strike.
So, if Trenchard and his pals don't agree to arbitration, we're all out on strike.
Definitely.
So be it.
That's strike. Want to know what the strike is going to do today?
Oh, there you are. Bill, are you ready? I said, speak out loud, clear and strong. Right, off you go then.
Ladies and gentlemen, me and Kitty are humbled by all of you for sticking up against the bosses, for voting for strike action in support of our reinstatement and our demands for higher pay. I'd particularly like to say thanks to John Dronfield for organising and bringing out on strike all our brothers and sisters from Stoney. As you know, there's a traditional rivalry between Eyam and Stoney, and I, for one, am glad to see the Stoney folk stood by it.
Too right we have. Them bosses, they think they can divide us, but they'll see we're going to stand by you to the end.
Thank you, John, for joining us. We didn't think you'd join the fight, but we're so glad you have.
We have to impress before we back down.
That's the spirit. If the bosses think we'll back down after a few days, they're in for a nasty surprise. We will stay united. We won't go back until they pay us what other shoe workers get in the rest of the country. The Trenchard, Higginbottom and others think that we need less to eat than our brothers and sisters in Northampton, Leeds and Leicester. Do they think our children need less to eat? Do they think we want to dress ourselves and our children in rags and not wear decent clothes? Well, we're here to tell them we do want decent clothes!
Too right. Why are Eyam and Stoney folk treated inferior to folk in other areas? Why is it we're making thousands of boots for our boys on the front, but not getting any war bonuses?
We're treated like dirt. And I tell you, since my husband was killed on Somme, I've had to bring up 3 kids on my own. And if it wasn't for my mother who minds my kids while I'm working, I don't know what would become of me. I work over 60 hours a week in filthy conditions and still only get half the wages that Bill and the other blokes get. I get pressure from the bosses and the overseers trying to get me to bring my kids to the factory because they see them as cheap labour. They're living in their fancy houses, sending their kids to fancy schools, and they're happy to see us, factory folk, living in hovels. They don't think our kids are good enough to go to good schools. So I tell you, I'll be out on strike for as long as it takes to get decent pay.
We have 179 men and women from Eyam and Stoney out on strike. We are not alone, brothers and sisters, for we have amongst us today Mr. John Buckle, membership organiser, National Union of Boot and Shoe Operatives. John!
I'll get on now then. Right. Brothers and sisters, I'm here today as representative of the National Union of Boot and Shoe Operatives to tell you that your decision to come out on strike is entirely justified. The bosses have refused to go to arbitration. So, the union, your union, will support you until your demands are met. Now look, I had a telegram today from our president, Ted Richards, who tells me that all 80,000 of our members are right behind you and that you will receive strike pay. Not only that, a hardship fund is being set up on your behalf. In addition, our National General Secretary, Edward Poulton, is coming up to Eyam to negotiate with the employers. And I will promise you that he will accept nothing less than the payment of union rate wages, the recognition of the union, and the reinstatement of all sacked workers. And I give you my solemn promise that you will be given strike pay all the way through this strike until your demands are met and you achieve victory.
We'll show the bosses a thing or two.
Aye, and we'll do all we can to get Chad White elected to Parliament after the war's over. Let's get rid of Lord Kerry, who supports the employers and hasn't lifted a finger to help us.
Chaz White will stick our corner and fight with us rather than knob with the bosses like the President MP does.
Yeah,
Well
we'll
said,
show
Harry.
the bosses what we're about.
Absolutely.
And we'll show what Eyam women are about, won't we, Kitty?
Too blooming right we will. No backing down until we get what we want.
Aye.
And we'll stay out for a year if we have to.
Aye, we will.
I pledge I will, but to be honest, I hope it doesn't take a year.
Well, I hope it doesn't. The bosses are a stubborn bunch, and they might be thinking about testing our mettle. They might be thinking some of you lasses will lose out after a few weeks.
I don't think so.
Lose out after a few weeks? What are you blokes thinking about? Just because we only get paid half as much as you think we're only going to strike half as long? I'll tell you something. We had a meeting at Bull's Head the other night, and we pledged allegiance to the union, and there'll be no talk of backing down from us. And if the bosses think they're the weak link in this chain, they'll soon find out how tough as Eyam and Stoney lasses are. And Mr. Buckle, why is it that women only get half the wages of men for doing the same work?
Now, the union does support equal pay for women. Unfortunately, the bosses, and I must say, too many male trade unionists are against it. They still believe that men are the main breadwinner and should be paid more for the same work.
Bollocks! I don't think John's probably ain't got any bollocks to pay us less.
But with my husband dead, I am the breadwinner in my household, so surely that's not fair.
No.
All right. It's a fair argument about you lasses earning same as us blokes, but that's an argument for another day. We've got to make sure that we win this fight first.
That's a fight for the future. But here and now, we must put all of our efforts into forcing Trenchard and the other employers into accepting our demands.
We'll win this battle first, but equal pay for equal work for women needs to come about.
Are there other trade unions coming to our aid?
Oh, they're already doing so. The gas workers and the engineering workers in Sheffield have already sent money and messages of support. And I'll go and talk to the railway workers at Grindleford Station, where they bring the goods in to keep the factories open.
Keep the factories open? How are they going to do that with us all out on strike?
Oh, well, they'll bring in scab labour and blacklegs. It's what employers always do in strikes.
No one was scabbing him.
No one bloody scabbed from Stoney neither.
Nobody sent to bloody Coventry if they did.
I think a lot worse than being sent to Coventry would happen. They'd get a good pan in, I tell you.
How can anybody think of doing our jobs when we're on strike?
Well, it's the same reason that Judas betrayed Jesus. And talking of religion, I see we have a man of the cloth amongst us here today. I do hope he's come along to offer his support.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Middleton of St Martin's in Stoney Middleton, and I'm here to give my support to the strikers. I believe it is my Christian duty to support those men and women who are campaigning for better pay and conditions, and have decided to initiate a comfort fund for the strikers. Even though some of my congregation are against doing so, indeed my bell ringers and church wardens have gone on strike themselves.
Have they really?
Unfortunately, they have.
Anglican priests are usually for the bosses, aren't they? How is it that you're on our side?
Not all of my congregation agree with my stance, but I believe I am my brother's keeper and must support those who are being mistreated. Jesus always stood with the poor and the oppressed, no matter what the personal cost to himself, and I must follow his example. If it is requested by you, I am more than willing to act as a go-between in talks with the employers, if you so wish.
Oh, thank you. That could help to finish this strike quickly. After all, bosses can't refuse to talk to a parish priest now, can they? Now, thank you. Would you put our case to them, please?
I am more than willing to do that. I'll do my best to dissuade employers, who are also landlords, from evicting strikers from their properties out of vindictiveness.
Oh, thank you, Reverend. That's what they're trying to do with me and Bill. They're trying to evict us from our homes, even though we've got kids. But with you on our side, we can't lose, can we, Mr. Buckle?
No, Kitty. With the Reverend and all our other members behind us, we can't lose! Right now, before we finish, I've got one more thing to say. And that is that I've been speaking today with Fred Marchington, our national organiser, who tells me that hero of the London gas workers strike, Will Thorne, will be coming up to Eyam to give a speech in support of us. And finally, the good news is I've just returned from Chesterfield with your strike. And from today, at 1 p.m. in the strike headquarters, the Bulls. And on every subsequent Friday, you will receive strike pay. And no matter how long this strike lasts, you will receive strike pay of £1 for married men, 15 shillings for single men, and 12 shillings and 6pence for We haven't got much at all, we said. We haven't got much at all, but we'll polish off our shoes and boots and wear our Sunday best and suits. Someone says we got to nail our colours to the wall, cause we haven't got much at all.
No, I haven't.
We haven't got much at all, we said. The union's here today. Mr. Buckle's come to say he's gonna make the bosses pay. The master says that we are gonna take the fall, cause we haven't got much at all. We haven't got much at all, we said. But scabs will never be. Margaret Trench, our king of Eyam, thinks he's the cat that's got the cream. Thinks he's gonna get an invitation to the ball, cause we haven't got much at all. No, we don't. We know how to win a war. We've marched down this road before. We'll kit out our new recruits, cause an army marches on its routes. We haven't got much at all, we said, but we have our demands. All we want's a young and fed, a Sunday roast and loaf of bread. We demand a better wage, we're gonna fill the hole, cause we haven't got much at all.
Well done, Mr. Buckle.
We haven't got much at all, we said. We haven't got much at all.
But I know I can count on you.
And we can count on others too. Down upon my shoulders and we'll make ourselves stand tall. Cause we haven't got much at all. 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 We haven't got much at all.
I don't like doing it, but I've got.
No, Harry, nobody blames you.
Is anybody at home?
Hey, up there, John.
You're right, John. Do you want a cup? The kettle's just boiled.
Oh, thanks, Kitty, that'll go down a treat. Oh, evening, brothers and sisters. Oh, thanks, Bill. How is everybody?
Oh, we're happy now this terrible war's nearly over, Mr. Buckle. But an awful long time that we've been out on strike. Mind you, one good piece of news that made us happy was Chas White defeating Lord Kerry in the general election. Hopefully he'll speak up for us in Parliament and put pressure on those bosses to settle.
That were a great night that we got the result in from Matlock about Chaz's win. We had a torchlight procession through the village and had a right good knees up.
Yeah, Tories kept theirs down that night, employers and all.
Oh, that was good news, getting rid of that liberal unionist support of the employers, Kerry. Well, now that Lloyd George is back in power, we'll see whether this country really can be a land fit for heroes. Oh, government will not be forgiven if they don't treat the returning soldiers and sailors with care. But, how are you, Mary?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm glad war's nearly over. But I hope we can win and get back to work soon. I mean, it's getting really difficult now.
It's getting tough, John. We're still determined to win the strike. Well, even though a few of the men have sad to say they have drifted off back to work at shoe factories.
Oh, no doubt, through fear, hunger, and bribery from the bosses.
Yeah, some men said they'll never go back to shoe factories until they recognise union, but they are looking for work elsewhere.
Looking for work elsewhere? Oh, what do you mean?
We're not giving up, Mr. Buckle, but to tell you the truth, Miss N and many of the other blokes in the village were thinking of working in the Sheffield foundries, where they're crying out for men. We're still with the union, and we're not going back to the shoe factories, not unless they raise pay and give union recognition. To tell you the truth, we're getting worn out, and we're dead frustrated we can't feed our families right. But we've all agreed, that's us men that are going to the foundries, that we'll give part of our wage to the strike fund. We don't like leaving Eyam. We've got no choice.
You've nothing to be ashamed of, Harry. You're not a scab. Not like all these the bosses are bringing in every week.
I'd rather be dead than a scab.
Yeah, well, I thought this would happen. Oh, dear. Oh, the bosses have been obstinate as hell. All they can say is, we'll have naught to do with union. Oh, it's like summat out of Dickens's Hard Times. They've got no thought for anybody but themselves. But don't be fret, Harry. I quite understand and I fully sympathise with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Many of the strikers are struggling to make ends meet, and they're getting desperate. That's why they're drifting off to find work elsewhere. The lasses have families to take care of, and they've got no choice but to stay in Eyam and Stoney and struggle on.
And we will struggle on, I've no doubt about that, till they come to the blooming senses. Not content with trying to starve us back to work, they're even trying to evict us from our homes.
What? That's true, John. They're carrying out a vindictive campaign against anybody they consider to be strike leaders. I myself have been harassed by them, and the buggers don't give a damn if you've children in your household.
Oh, that's outrageous. Look, I'll get the union solicitors to give you help out here and get a stop put to this. Well, look, have you spoken to the local churchman? Well, particularly that one that came to the meeting from Stoney Middleton? Well, maybe they can speak to the bosses and make them see the evil of their actions.
We've actually spoken to Reverend Riddlesden, God bless him. Do you know, he stood up and has had many a stern word with the bosses on our behalf for the unfairness of their actions, which is more than can be said for Vicar of Eyam. He's not lifted a finger to help. He definitely knows where his bread's buttered, and he's sided with bosses.
I'm a chapel woman, not a church woman, but I have to say Reverend Riddlesden is a good man, and he's shown up all the Christians, so-called Christians that live around these villages.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that Riddleston's still with us. We need all the help we can get. Oh, and talking of help, I've been speaking to a very powerful voice in the women's trade union movement. She's called Mary MacArthur of the National Federation of Women Workers. Now, she's taken a great deal of interest in this Star Strike, and she wants a delegation of Eyam and Stoney women to meet her in Sheffield. Well, she's there meeting the female munitions workers. Now, Mary will be sympathetic towards your cause. She is famous for leading the women chainmakers to victory in the Cradley Heath strike of 1910. And she knows a thing or two about how to deal with nasty bosses. Mary will be able to sort you out. And I'll tell you what, we've also had words with each other. And I think we've come up with an idea that might help your situation. But I'll let her tell you herself when she sees you.
When's that?
Oh, on Monday. And the more of you can go, the better.
Well, I'm interested in going, but I can't afford the bus fare to Sheffield. I mean, money's tight at the moment.
Yeah, she's right, we're all skint at the moment. I don't suppose the union could give us a sub, could they?
Sub? Oh, subs be damned. The union will not see you out of pocket. We'll pay for your bus fare.
Oh, I've been to Sheffield for over 12 months. And I've not been since I was a kid when my mum took me Christmas shopping.
There'll be a caravan full of lasses before you know it. Are you coming with us?
Oh, no, especially it's just you lasses. Anyway, I've got to go to Chesterfield on urgent union business. One of our brothers has lost 2 of his fingers in a workplace accident. It looks like he's not going to work for the foreseeable future. No. Mary will be able to sort you out, and she's done wonders for women's pay and conditions. And you'll be pleased to know this, Kitty. She's a campaigner for equal pay for women.
And I can't wait to meet her. But John, we need you with us to put our case to her.
Oh, no, you don't. In the last 12 months, I've been mightily impressed by what I've seen of you lasses. No, you'll be able to tell Mary exactly what's going on in Eyam and Stoney and what you're fighting for. Now look, I've got your bus money in my wallet, so who's for it first?
Me, please.
She's always first. Right there, isn't there?
Good afternoon, sisters. I presume you are the Eyam shoe workers that John Buckles told me about.
And are you Mary MacArthur?
I am indeed. So what would you like to say to me?
Miss MacArthur.
Oh, please, call me Mary, or sister.
Well, Mary, as you probably already know, we've been out on strike for well over 12 months now, and things are getting desperate for us. We came out on strike in February 18 over pay and conditions, and for bosses to recognise union in factories. And we've come here to ask for your help. Now, we truly believe in the righteousness of this cause, and we're determined to win, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we will.
Well spoken. What's your name?
It's Kitty. Kitty Smith.
Pleased to meet you, Kitty. Now, introduce me, please, to your fellow sisters in struggle.
Well, this is Joan Drumfield, and she speaks for Stoney workers, and this is Mary Pilling from Eyam.
Mary. Same name as mine. Well, it's really good to meet you, and I am in awe of you all.
You in awe of us? How can that be? Mr. Buckle said you're a leading woman in the trade union movement in this country.
Well, I mean what I say, I am in awe of you. All over Great Britain, people have heard about your valiant action. They can't believe how long you've been prepared to stay out on strike. Even the men in the trade union movement who've jibed in the past that women aren't tough enough to stand up to their employers and that they're too docile and too afraid of the consequences of going on strike. But they can't say that now, can they? No, you are an inspiration to women workers everywhere, and you should be very proud of yourselves.
Thank you for saying that, Mary.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're so grateful for what you said, but we don't really see ourselves as a beacon for others. We just believe in what we're doing is right.
You are doing right. Employers think that they can just push it around. They think that they can just pay us half of what they pay the men for doing the same work. They think we're doormats to be trodden on and cheap labour. But what's happened in the war has changed things. And we're sure that we could drive trams and buses, and that we could work in the gas and engineering and munitions factories, and do it just as good as the men. I have worked in the munitions factories with the women and organised them to strike against poor pay and low conditions. Low pay and poor conditions. And we also are, I also got the government to back down and to grant the munitionettes equal pay.
Munitionettes?
Aye, that's the lasses who work in the munitions factories night and day, and were a vital part in helping this country win the war against Germany.
And they get the same pay as men? I mean, I can't believe it.
Yes, well, it goes to show what can be achieved when women stick up for themselves. Like the proverbial one that's been trodden on for too long. Well, we've turned and there's no going back.
But Mary, you've organised strikes. I mean, how did you do that?
Well, you see this badge here on my lapel? You see what it says? The National Federation of Women Workers. And I founded it in 1906.
National Federation of Women Workers, what's that? Look closer, see what it says.
To fight, to struggle, to right the wrong.
And that's what you women in Eyam are doing, fighting and struggling and fighting along. I go all around the country and I organise women and encourage them to join the trade union, to fight poor pay and poor conditions, and to get equal pay as men for doing the same work.
Yeah, good for you, Mary. We deserve equal pay. And if you don't mind saying, you're a rather fine speaker, and I was wondering how it was that you decided to stand up for women workers.
Well, don't mix your words, Kitty. You think that I'm posh, don't you? That I'm a posh horse.
Well, to be honest, you do sound like you might have gone to college or perhaps been a teacher.
Well, I did go to college. And in fact, my father wanted me to join a profession. So he encouraged me to join the Primrose League.
Primrose League? That sounds fancy, doesn't it?
It's an organisation of gentle young ladies of a conservative orientation. I was a member for a while.
You're a Tory supporter? I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, how did you join a club like that?
It was all smoke and dagger, and I did go and I took a mental note of who the activists were to take to my father. But then a man called John Turner stood up, and his eloquence just changed my life. He spoke about how the women in my father's factory were oppressed and underpaid and abused. It was an epiphany for me. I couldn't believe that I'd been asked to undertake this task, and I felt ashamed. So I realised that these women needed my help, not my espionage. And so from that day on, I have worked and fought on behalf of the workers, and I shall do until my dying day.
Well, I bet your father didn't like you turning around. I mean, what did he think when you changed your colours?
Silly man. He disowned me.
Bully for you, Mary. You're a good one. You really are.
Well, thank you for being on our side, because we need all the help we can get.
Can you help us, Mary? We've been out on strike for months and we seem to be getting nowhere.
Well, I shall do my very best to help you. But, as you know, John Buckle says that you're up against the most stubborn employers in the country. But talking of John Buckle, he's asked me to go and collect donations from the munitions and gas and foundry workers in Sheffield, because he and your union want to make a women's cooperative shoe factory in Eyam, which will give you and your fellow strikers employment.
But what is a cooperative factory?
Well, it's where the people that work in the factory own it, and they get a share of the profits. You get paid national trade union rates, you get good toilet and canteen facilities, you'll get paid for all your goods, and you'll no have to work more than 48 hours a week. But don't just rely on others' mind. You'll have to set up a fund for yourselves.
Well, don't worry about that. We'll set a fund up straight away, won't we?
Well, now, I have work to do, so I must be going. So, please keep in touch and tell your fellow workers that not to give up hope and that help is on its way. And tell John, give John Buckle my regards when you next see him. And for we treat you here. Welcome to the Federation.
Oh,
Thank you. Have a safe journey home, and don't worry, you'll be hearing from me very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
He's here, Mr. Trenchard. The union official, Mr. Buckle, from the Bootmakers Union.
10 minutes late. Bloody rabble rouser. Let's have him in.
Right. This way. Just there.
I'm sorry I'm late, Mr. Trenchard. Unfortunately, I had urgent business in Chesterfield and the bus back from Eyam was late in arriving.
Okay. To be perfectly honest, Mr. Buckle, I didn't want to meet with you at all. I think you're a troublemaker, an outsider, and the sooner that Eyam sees the back of you, the better. But our local magistrate, Mr. Lem, pleaded with me to meet with you, to hear your case. So it's only out of duty and respect for him I allowed you into my office.
Thank you. Well, as you know, I have spoken to all the other employers on several occasions, so I'm actually quite pleased that I now have this opportunity to speak to you in person. After all, you are the main employer in this dispute, and I have been wanting to say that I believe that this strike has gone on for far too long and is causing far too much suffering in the village. Now, I'm sure that a resolution can be achieved if we're all prepared to make compromises.
Compromises? You mean giving in and backing down to your outrageous union demands? Never. I'd rather throw myself off a cliff than surrender to your sort.
My sort? What the bloody hell do you mean by that?
Your sort. The sort that has dragged this country down into the gutter. Your sort. Sort that's always wanting something for nothing. Your sort. Born idle shirkers, terrified of an honest day's work. Unions? You're nothing but a bunch of bloody blackmailers, extorting money from us employers. You and your chums, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Our workers are back there, making boots for our brave Tommies out there on the front line in France, and you're telling them to go out on strike? You're bloody unpatriotic. Why don't you get out there to Russia and join that blackguard Lenin and his communist rabble and clear off out of Eyam and leave us in peace to get on with the war effort?
Dare you question my patriotism or the patriotism of our union? I'll have you know that we've had 2,000 of our members pay the ultimate sacrifice in this war, and many thousands more have been maimed for life. Our president had his son killed in the fighting last year, and Kitty Smith, oh, you remember her? The lass you insulted and sacked when she came into your office. Well, she lost her husband on the Somme. Now, she's a war widow, and she has to bring up 3 kids on her own without a job, thanks to you. And what sacrifices have you made, Mr. Trenchard? If you're so patriotic, why is it that you've never paid any of your workers your war bonus that they should earn, that every other factory worker in the country gets?
I don't think I like your tone, Buckle, and I'll never give in to any of your union demands. And that Slater and Smith, they got what they deserved. They'll never work in my factory again. And I'll be bloody delighted if they have to leave this village.
Oh, I'll wager you would, you villain. You've been trying to get them evicted, haven't you?
You're nothing but a jumped up shoe-hand, Buckle, and you're due a good bloody leathering, and I might just be the one to give it to you.
Oh, would you now? Well, Mr. Trenchard, I'm game for you. So if you fancy your chances, go on, throw a punch, and I promise you, you'll get a sharper one back.
Mr. Campbell! Mr. Campbell!
Is he giving you trouble, Mr. Trenchard?
Yes, he is. Just throw him out.
Right, so
Lay a finger on me, chummy, and I'll knock you into the middle of next week. I was welterweight boxing champion for West Yorkshire. And if you touch me, I'll give you the best boxing lesson you've ever had. So go on, if you fancy your chances, go for it. Thought not. Never knew an overseer yet that wasn't spineless when it came to the rub.
If you don't leave this office right now, I'm gonna call a constable.
Don't you fret, Trenchard. I'm leaving, but the union's not. We'll look after our workers wherever they're being underpaid and overworked. And no matter how this strike ends, I promise you, we'll look after them. So, if you think the union is going away, you are very, very much mistaken. So, goodbye. For now.
I knew he was going to be bloody trouble.
Stoney Middleton. Should we take a seat?
It's good to see you too, Fred. I wish I was bringing better news from Eyam and Stoney Middleton.
The strikers are losing heart, aren't they? I thought you looked a bit dejected when I saw you. It's hardly surprising they've been 2 years out on strike. It's amazing how long we continued with it.
Oh, no. They're not losing heart, far from it. No. Some of the men have found work in the nearby quarries or the foundries in Sheffield, but they're determined not to go back to the shoe factory till our demands are met. And the women, they won't hear us stopping. They're as solid as a rock. Want to continue to struggle on.
Well, that's good to hear. And don't worry about strike pay. I had a word with Ted, our president, the other day, and he said they'll go on paying, the union will go on paying strike pay for the next 10 years if need be. You know, we've paid over £8,000 in strike pay already. And the union membership nationally is all for us to continue to do so.
Well, thanks for your assurance about the strike pay not being stopped. They're right glad of it in Eyam and Stoney for everything we give them, and also for the donations for other unions. No, what I have to report is that there's no sign that virtually all the employers are not going to give in.
Virtually all?
Well, Higginbottom of Stoney Middleton have got War Office contracts, so, albeit reluctantly, they've agreed to pay trade board rates. But even they're adamant about not accepting the union.
What about the others? Any sign of compromise or willingness to go to arbitration?
Oh, none whatsoever. They're all as stubborn as mules.
Their businesses must be suffering. Surely they must be hit in the pocket.
Well, of course it is. But as I said, they're stubborn as mules. They're just as determined as us not to give in. Somehow, they managed to keep the factories ticking over by bringing in scab labour and bullying ex-elderly employees back into work. Oh, I really don't know what we're going to need to do.
It doesn't sound encouraging, does it? What about getting the railway workers at Grindleford to stop handling goods that are destined for the shoe factories? That would stop the boss's shenanigans, wouldn't it? I remember talking to Jimmy Thomas, National Union of Railmen President. He said he'd do all he could to help our members out on strike.
Oh, I know that Thomas said that. But the workers at Grindleford Station, where the factory goods are brought in, have done naught to help us. I've been to see them on many occasions, and they offer all such nice words of sympathy for the strikers. But they've done naught. They still let the goods into the factory, the hides, the studs, the rubber. Now, if those bastards had been behind us right from the start, this strike would have been over in weeks, not dragged on as it has done.
Why won't they take action?
Well, seems to me they've got a cushy number at that station. They're worried that by rocking the boat, they might be moved elsewhere. They think the bosses will move them if they show any signs of sympathy for the strikers.
I see. Well, you're the man on the ground there, John. What can we do to win this strike?
It pains me to say this, Fred, but I think the strike's lost. I've done everything. I've been everywhere. I've spoken to the bosses umpteen times, but I can't see a way that we can win it without the support of the Grindleford railway workers. Now look, the strikers have been out for 2 years, and witnessing their sacrifices, it grieves me to come to this conclusion, but I can't come to any other. Do you remember when I came to see you the first time?
I do.
You told me about the plagues that struck Eyam during the 17th century. Well, it's like history repeated itself. This strike has been another scourge on the village. It's caused misery, destitution, heartache to loads and loads of families. Some of it's even reminiscent of the plague. Why, last year, 2 lasses, weakened by starvation, fell victim to this damned influenza that's sweeping the country. I've got to be honest with you, Fred. I can't let the strikers carry on when I know it's a lost battle. It's like watching a much-loved animal suffering in pain. You know you don't want to do it, but you've got to put it down. I'm dreading having to tell them that the strike's lost and we won't achieve our just ends. But I've got to do it. I can just see the look in their faces when I tell them. I feel as if I'm letting them down. I really do.
Be easy on yourself, John. You've done all you could. No one could put more time and effort into winning this strike than you have. You've worked like a beaver. I'm damn proud of you. You said I picked the best man for the job, and you've done a bloody good job. You said we were a fighting union, and we've proved it with this strike. All over the country, dockers, miners, and engineers have the utmost respect for us. We might have lost the battle, but we ain't lost the war. Union membership all over the country is increasing, and employers nationwide, after seeing the fight the Eyam folk put up, will not risk their precious profits by resisting union recognition in their mills and factories. Aye, and especially those that have only women workers. They've seen what the Eyam and Stoney lasses have endured, and they'll no longer think that women are pushovers.
There's some truth in that. I'm sure it'll have inspired women workers all over the country to stand up to sweatshop bosses.
You go back to those strikers and you tell the old trade union in this country salutes them. And if they are blacklisted, we'll do all we can to get them work elsewhere.
Well, I've already started thinking about that some time back when I thought the strike might not end well.
Have you now?
Well, I've been speaking to Mary McCarthy, of the National Federation of Women Workers, and I asked her to see if she could raise funds to start a women's cooperative in Eyam for the strikers. Well, they're bound to be blacklisted when the strike's over.
Go on.
Well, she seems to have been able to raise enough funds for us now to go straight ahead with the cooperative.
That's wonderful. Tell me more.
Well, we've bought some land in Eyam and a decommissioned army hut, and we're getting some shoemaking machinery from Northampton. With any luck, we'll be up and running and in production within 5 weeks.
How many women will you be able to employ?
About 50.
God, that's incredible. I bet that put a smile on the lasses' faces in Eyam and Stoney when you go up and tell them that's going to happen.
I'm sure it will. I must admit, I'm very grateful to Mary for all she's done.
Right, John, I think we said all we have to say, and I've got to go to Brighton. I've got a train to go to Brighton. You go back to Eyam and do what you have to do. Tell the strikers there that the national membership of NUBSO is damn proud of them. Thank you again for all you've done.
Oh, well, I will tell them, and thanks for all your support, Fred. Do you know, it's funny. I came into your office 2 years ago, not having a clue where Eyam and Stoney Middleton were. Well, I'm going back up there now.
Cheerio, John.
Feels like I'm going home.
and the hive, rub the oil and mix the dye, nail the leather, steel the toe, watch the master's fortune grow, always fighting the last war, the one just gone,
Oh, I'm sorry to disturb you, Kitty. That was very moving.
Oh, thanks, John. You all right? You look a little bit downhearted.
I've been talking to Fred Marchington. He hasn't got bad news, and he does say that the union is still 100% behind the strike.
So what's wrong then, John? I mean, support for the strike is still as strong as ever. And I tell you, even if we get granted national wage rates, we're not going back to factories until they recognise the union, and that's the truth.
Oh, I'm so proud of you all in Eyam and Stoney. I really am.
So why are you looking so downhearted?
I don't know how to say this. I really don't know how to say this.
Well, just tell me. What is it?
The strike's lost, Kitty.
What? As in, over?
Well,
finished?
I've done everything I can, but I can't see you and the others continue to suffer as like this. Look, I'll go to the bosses and I'll plead with them not to be vindictive. I don't know if it'll do any good, but I'll do my best. However, I do have some good news that I think the bosses won't like to hear.
What's that?
Well, do you remember a few months back you went to see Mary MacArthur?
Yes, she hasn't raised the money, has she?
She has indeed. And by all accounts, a large amount. And that, with what you've raised and the donations from other unions, means that we can go straight ahead with the cooperative.
Oh my God. The lasses will be beaming when they find this out. Do you know, we've spoken nothing else since we came back from Sheffield. But to be honest, we never thought it would really happen. We've always dreamt of working in a place with decent conditions and decent pay. Oh, they'd be so thankful for Mary. But tell me, when will it be up and running?
Oh, with any luck, we'll be up and running and in production within 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
Yes, it's all in place and everything's arranged. There is, however, one small fly in the ointment.
What might that be?
Well, you'll have to have a man as a manager over you, and that might not go down too well.
It's not going to be one of the former bosses, is it?
Oh, no former boss will ever work there, you have my promise. No, it's Bill Slater. Well, as a strike leader, he's bound to be blacklisted, and the union feel duty-bound to offer him a job in the cooperative.
Yeah. No problem there. Bill's a fine fellow, and we'd all be happy to work under Bill.
Oh, well, I'll tell him later.
Oh,
Do you know, Kitty, on the train up here from London, I got to do a lot of wondering. And I wonder, have I done right by you? I mean, 2 years ago, I raised your hopes about what you could achieve, and I took you into a strike in those 2 years, and in that time I've seen you all struggling on. I've seen you all scratching for food, seen some of you lose your homes, seen families break up, even seen some of you die. Was it all worthwhile?
Don't think like that, John. It's been worthwhile. Yes, and I tell you, even knowing what we know now, and the length of time we'd have been out on strike, we'd have all taken the same decision we did back in February 18. Yeah, it's true, we have suffered. It's been really hard. There's been worry and hardship. But above all that, I've gained something priceless from it.
Priceless, Kitty?
Priceless, John. Do you know, before all this happened, I mean, I didn't really understand how the world ticked. I didn't know what was going on outside of you. all I knew about was gossip that galloped about the village about who was seeing who and which poor bugger couldn't pay the butcher's bill.
True.
But now I'm interested to find out, like, how the world ticks, and I want to know what's going on outside of Eyam. And you know, speaking to people like Mary and listening to Will Thorne, and you know, it's opened my eyes. And I've even started to take an interest in politics, and especially in the way that women are treated in society as well as the workplace. And I'm not wanting my kids just to become factory fodder for the bosses. I want them to be able to have the opportunity to go to college if they want to.
Oh, well, you've joined the right union if you want that to happen. NUBSO is a socialist trade union. And we don't just want to see better pay and conditions for our members. No. We want to see a fair and decent society for all. And we're willing to fight for it.
Yeah, and I want to join that fight. And I'm sure restaurant workers do as well. Do you think that other, like, people around the country, they'll think about joining trade unions to stand up to the bosses?
Oh, they already are.
Yeah.
I've had it on reliable authority that the men in the quarries round here are starting to get unionised. Well, I'm told that they believe that if the lasses of Eyam and Stoney have got the guts to stand up to the bosses, they really ought to do the same.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, I really am. Do you know, other night I was laid awake in bed and I got thinking about church service that we hold every year down in Derbyshire, the plague service. And I remember what a churchman said, it's probably about 5 years ago, but he said, the selfless act of those Eyam villagers by cutting themselves off to stop the spread of plague will be remembered for hundreds of years to come. And it will inspire other folk to do similar acts of self-sacrifice. Do you think that's true?
Certainly I do.
And do you think that, perhaps, in 100 years or so, people will remember what we've done in our strike? And do you think the sound of our striking feet, marching on the cobbles of Eyam, will be remembered for years to come and not be forgotten?
Definitely. True acts of courage are never forgotten.
That's good to hear. And I'm glad I've been a part of it, and I always will be. Anyhow, John, what about you? You're like a part of the furniture around here. I mean, what's going to happen to you now?
Well, funny you should say this, for I heard recently that my name has been shortlisted to contest the Eccles seat near Manchester for the Labour Party at the next general election.
My word! Our very own John Buckle could one day be an MP standing up in Parliament speaking on our behalf. I'd be blown. I tell you, if you get selected to fight that seat, me and some of the other lasses will come to Eccles to help you fight it. That's if you pay for his bus fare.
Oh, I don't think the union would agree to that, Kitty.
Hey, look, I'm only joking. It's more than we do to help you for everything you've done to help us.
Oh, thank
Now,
you.
come on, we need to go and tell everybody strike's over. I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to be there by your side.
Well, come on, lads.
Let's get
Hand me
it
my
over.
hat. It's up there. That's grand. Right. Give me your arm.
Come on then. And remember, you've got nothing to be ashamed of and everything to be proud of. Rub the oil and mix the dye. Nail the leather, steel the toe. Watch the master's fortune grow. Always fighting the last war, the one just gone, the one before. We were always fighting the last war. Was
Was it worth fighting for? 2 long winters we survived, battling through the storms that drive. From those spring years we lost our track, we carry on, we don't look back. Always fighting the last war, the one just gone, the one before. We were always fighting the last war. Was it worth fighting for? Rain that falls, winds that wail, cast the limestone peaks and dales, shapes us true and makes us strong. We stubborn when it's right from wrong. Always fighting the last war, the one just gone, the one before. We were always fighting the last war. Was it worth fighting for?
Hold your nerve, don't lose sight. Cherish hope, the future's bright. Keep your faith, we will prevail. United now, we will not fail.
Always fighting the last war, the one just gone, the one before. We were always fighting the last